Back to Kerbin after we stopped and left Jebediah in orbit, and it gave me a mission that says go on an orbital spacewalk near Kerbin. Now, while I was there, I used the money that I earned to upgrade the facility, and that will allow me to, should allow me to, voila, do a spacewalk. Is that a spacewalk? I don't know. It's hanging on the edge. Getting an EVA report, that's for sure. And it looks like I qualified for a spacewalk. Oh, what the heck? Don't stop me now. That brings up an interesting point. Let's go back out on a spacewalk. At this point, we'll be able to collect our data. We are a pilot. Only a scientist can restore that goo container, so we would let him do that. We can also take the information from the thermometer and the barometric, and once we take that data, what happens is we can reuse those. So as we come into the low Kerbin atmosphere, upper atmosphere out of space at 69 or 70, then we'll be able to use those two instruments. But hey, let's go back to the Space Center. And since we have satisfied, scratch that itch for them, see if they have any more contracts for us to fulfill. Alright, so as you can see, I upgraded this and it grew. And I also upgraded this because I had enough money. And so we have 1, 2, 3 upgraded. This one's going to be expensive, and we don't need it for a while. That one's as expensive as that one, but if we have a priority here, that one's affordable, but it's not a priority until we get into aviation. So let's just go see if we have any contracts to explore Kerbin. Let's see what that is. Wow, I got enough gas left in my tank, and they want to bring me back and make it a mission. So that's money just to come back. You can get hung up in these missions, so if it was possible to do one right now, I could. I don't see anything possible. So we don't need to increase. We don't need to really do anything at this point. This one's my next goal at 225 though. And but to get back to our spaceship, we go here. Click on that. Click on that. That's our communication and observation building. They run radios and radar and other forms of monitoring. This is great when we're up here because we can actually speed up the time, which doesn't appear as if we're using any electrical charge, just floating in orbit. A little faster. And then there we go. I didn't want to miss the beauty of the sunrise. Looks like it's the arrow keys. I always do it manually, but it's the period, comma, greater than, less than keys that increase the So now the big question is do we want to come down on planet? And where exactly. So do I turn something? This is a C1. What I'd like to do is get as close to home as possible. So I'm going to move that up to here. I did that with my greater than less than keys above the period and the comma. And I'm going to put it over my landmark. It's my visual landmark. And then I'm going to go to negative or retrograde, which means basically I'm pointing my tail. I'll show you. I'm moving straight backwards like I was driving a car backwards, straight and true. Alright. And what we're going to do is try to put this on a number we can live with. Now we barely got any fuel, so we got to be careful. But I do have to come home, so I have to get down to 70. Alright, so that half the fuel, a little less than half, brought me there. And then what I'm going to do, I think, is put this on 20 or something like that. It looks like I'm just going to run it out of gas. Alright, basically it put it where it put it. I was going to try to go for a little lower than that. And I might have started a little earlier had I been able to anticipate the outcome. Now, this is going to heat up and blow up in re-entry. And so might the experiments. But we've already extracted the space data from them, and any data we lose now will be new data. So, in the interest of safety, I will show you a safe ejection of our space debris. And what we're going to do basically is go to 70,000, which I can time warp up, and it will stop me when I hit 70. It's automatic, so I don't even have to worry about it. Watch. Pop. Okay, now what we want to do is go to prograde. That's retrograde. Prograde. Just like that, and we're going to release. Alright, then we will return to retro. Alright. Okay, so at this point, we're in upper Earth atmosphere. Let's go ahead and take our temperature, take our pressure data, and we have to do this before 50. It's called the EVA. Get the EVA report, and while you're out here, if you have time, take that data, take that data. Did I get the EVA report? Okay, board. Board. Alright, turn back on your stability control and put it back on the retrograde safety point. And this will allow your heat shield to absorb all the energy. Okay, did I get a crew report? No, I have a review report from space. Let's send Kerbin the good news. Alright, transmitting, that's done. And now we have the ability to do an upper atmospheric crew report. So, as we have achieved that, we have no science data outside of the craft. it should be smooth sailing home. I'm going to pause the video here for sake of speed, or I may not. Let me talk about the shape of this craft for a minute. It's shaped like a teardrop, so as we enter into atmosphere, it should steer itself. I can show you. I will turn off the stability control, and if you see the shape of it, it's pulling this way, pulling that way. It's self-correcting, and that's why they chose the teardrop shape. The Soviets chose the sphere for some reason, but we chose teardrop. Now if you look, I pulled it way off. If you watch, it's going to seesaw and teeter-totter itself right back into position, each time getting a little closer. And as the air gets thicker, it'll be more demanding. Now, I threw another one in there. I'll show you. It'll fix itself in all directions. This could get ridiculous too. If I start picking up too much heat and it doesn't correct itself, I may take over. But let's just play around with it for a minute, since we really can't harm too much by blowing scientific instrumentation. The only thing I wouldn't want to do would be damage my parachutes, so that's what I'm monitoring as a demonstration. You can see the seesaw is getting shorter now. And when I showed it to you earlier, it was just a little bit of rocking because it was pretty much already centered on balance, and I'm not pulling it from an extreme to extreme. But what's happening is the excessive momentum as we cross the center point is carrying it. It's just physics. Reactions and opposite reactions and momentum and constants and then of course it reverses on itself and pulls it back, and this is just pure engineering, design, and shape of the craft. And if you look at the Apollo craft, it's not quite as streamlined as this. It's even more of a teardrop. Would it have like 4 inches thick steel, and it's still melted through in spots, not completely through, but burned an inch off the shell. Gets really hot, really hot. What, 2,300 degrees, is that right? That's actually hotter than brimstone. So alright, so you can see it's almost fixed itself completely now. And it really doesn't matter to me if I turn my stability control back on or not. I am at the mercy of everything. I will pull my parachute though. Have I done that? Alright, the parachute has been activated. Now everything should just pan out as a matter of course. The speeds I'm watching are about 16 to 1,200 meters per second and 16,000 feet. And the way I think of it is, if your altitude is like we're at about 28,000 right now. So if we're going 28,000 and traveling faster than 2,800 on our surface speed, meters per second, and I can also show you the orbital speed. But basically, you want the 2,400 to be, this number to be less than 24 at all cases. So if you're at 16 and this says 17, you're in trouble, and you're probably moving too fast to pull your chute. So I don't know, I wouldn't know what you'd do in that situation. You'd have to be there and everything would be set up, but it's not good. So And not only does that apply to this planet, that applies to other planets too. With thinner atmosphere and heavier gravity. So even though everything's very plausible and theoretically completes itself here, it's theoretically you could be in trouble on the other planet. So anyway, coming in at 12,000 feet. I'm not sure why these already pulled. I'm lucky. I didn't have my chutes set up and I pulled those things so early. I basically should have had them ripped off by forces. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe they did that in the update. Maybe there's something, they couldn't get something right, so that doesn't seem right. Anyway, I forgot to set my chutes up. I did it on the last craft. Didn't get her done here. And somehow they went off way early, and here I am. I was expecting them to pop about now. Coming in at, with the heavy air brake on. Maybe the drag chute slowing me down to about 200 before the other one even opens. Or pops, and then to get it to flower yet. It's okay. I'll get that done. But the really cool thing is on the third mission, we've upgraded. By the end of the third mission, which I call the second mission because the first two were just half missions, but at this point in the game, we have upgraded 3 buildings. We've fulfilled, I don't know how many contracts, 5 or 6. Let me just look. Bunch of world's first. Look at all that. As soon as we land, we'll complete, I guess I could count them, 6 contracts. We're going to have more money. And a new contract to fly by the moon, possibly rescue, hopefully orbit the moon, but we shall see. And if I get my part count up and open some technology, then it's all going to work out great. So let me go ahead and try to accelerate that time. Alright, I got a warning. Basically, what they're telling me is that if I do this and crash into the ocean and explode, don't cry to them. So I'm going to back it off before I hit the water. And they also have a thing where big giant ships in atmosphere, they become totally unstable in high speed and start bouncing and rippling and bending. It's bad enough, normal, without having some type of time acceleration problem. Alright, so when we hit the water, we're going to have to do, just for the sake of science, a scientific readings and possibly an EVA report. Yeah, we're going to get plenty other chances to hit the water. So the only reason we're doing this is to steal a little science in advance. And we won't be able to get it later. If we take it now, we won't be able to get this later. Water temperature reading, it's a one-time use. We can go to another planet that has water and read its temperature. But we'll have plenty of things to do. Plenty of things to do. We even have a mod here that shows available experiments where we're at the moment. And this is going to really be helpful as the video progresses or into the next video. Alright, with not trying to move too fast, but we've got a lot of money here. It's not a lot. I'm going to go back, check our messages. Looks like here's our flyby of the moon. Hold the TD-12 decoupler into orbit of Kerbal. That's the small one. See, test the parachute. This is too specific. Altitude 5 to 9,000. Speed between 70 and 160. They want you to be coming in safe and easy. And have some reverse thrust on that one, possibly. Ooh. See, I don't want to get caught holding one of these when I need to move forward. I'll go for this one. I might get stuck holding it, but I'll go for it. Hopefully the parameters weren't ridiculous. Okay, so 148 to spend. We have to have a battery or we'll never make it there and back. That gives us 103, so we can choose 2, and then we go up to 90. So if I was wanting to somehow extend this, or I was using life support, I would jump to here for the solar panel so I can recharge my battery. But I know if I have a pilot and I don't attach any auto mechanisms, which would be like this. This is to help unmanned craft, and I believe it would assist your engineer and your scientist if they were on the craft, but I'm not sure about that. I think it's about the same as an engineer or a scientist. Really hard to fly if you're not paying attention, or I mean, you basically have to fly it. So I don't think that would help me, and I don't think that would help me by jumping forward, so we'll stay in our lane, which is good. And we have to decide which 2 we want. So this gives us control, directional control, and this is airplanes, which if we are going into airplanes, I want this and this, because this is just a pain. Anyway, moving on. So we have this one, which has a cabin crew, and structural fuselage, which is a hollow tube, and it's very low weight, so if you need length but not weight, that will give it to you. And we also have these cute little rockets here called the Pug. Bigger fuel tanks, that'll keep the part count down, so we'll go with that. And this upgrade before gave us a Thumper solid fuel booster, which we can use. Now we could keep this research to try to generate points, like if we didn't think we needed this or this, we keep that. I'm not going to keep it. I'm just going to find ways to get more. And I'm going to get this one. And that's it. Okay, so our next goal is to fly by the moon. And once again, what I'm going to do is put you on pause while I build this ship.